Welcome to Off the Mat. If you're new here, then welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. My name is Christy Knight and I am a yoga teacher and retreat host. And this podcast will dive deep with some of my favorite yoga teachers and studio owners to talk about what a yoga practice really is, both on and off of the mat. Today's guest is Alice Trow, a yoga teacher who has recently become a first-time mother. For most of my London life, I lived in Dalston and Hackney, and my local yoga studio, which I still miss so much, was Yoga Home near Clissold Park. Alice Trow was one of my favourite teachers at this little paradise, and when I committed to the idea for this podcast, I knew I wanted Alice to be a part of it. Her teaching style is strong and slow, and she has this way of making you feel like everything is just going to be okay, just through the way that she honestly shares her practice. Our chat was open and honest. We spoke about Alice's journey from the acting world into teaching yoga and how her practice has helped her connect better to herself and heal her inner voice. We spoke openly about yoga during her pregnancy and about how her practice manifests in her relationship with her 2-year-old daughter. I honestly could have continued chatting to Alice for hours, and I really hope that some of our conversation resonates with you. If it does, I'd love if you could hit subscribe or share this podcast with a friend. We are going to kick off with a little meditation, which I'm going to be guiding us through today. So wherever you are, whether you're on the move, at home, listening in headphones, I just want you to take a second to drop in. And maybe that's by getting comfortable in a seat. However you are is perfect. So let's just begin to close down your eyes if that feels okay for you wherever you are. And I want you to bring your attention, your focus to your physical body. And we're going to start to just scan through very slowly from the crown of the head moving down. And each time we take our awareness into a new part of the body, I want you to just notice what's going on there today. If you're holding on to any tension, any tightness, anything that you could just begin to soften and let go of. So starting from the crown of the head, we're going to make our way down through the muscles in your face, softening your forehead, the corners of your eyes, bringing some space perhaps between your teeth, unclenching the jaw, and then we'll continue that awareness moving down through the neck, into your shoulders. Big point where we tend to hold on to quite a lot, so just let those shoulders sink down your back body. And let's bring the awareness to that central column of your spine. Notice how your posture feels today. Moving down through your seat, the back of your legs, down into the soles of your feet. And start to feel this lightness wash over the body, just letting go, allowing yourself to really be still. And we're going to bring the focus now a little bit deeper to your internal body by focusing on the sound of your breath. Just noticing perhaps where you're breathing from, which part of the body you are breathing into, whether the breath feels calm and relaxed or if it's a little bit sharper, shorter in your body if you've been active. Let's start to extend your in and exhale. We're going to begin to notice those tiny little pauses at the top of your inhale and at the bottom of your exhale. And in each of those pauses, see if you can let your body just relax even a tiny bit more. Stay with your breath. Start to become aware of the weight of your body pushing down into the seat, the ground, wherever you are. Maybe the feeling of your hands on your knees, or wherever they are. As we gently bring the focus back to the physical body, let's take a big deep breath in through the nose. Then open your mouth and take a gentle sigh out. And starting to gently blink open your eyes.
Good.
And just, noticing any little shifts, and hope you enjoyed that little kickoff for today's podcast. I am so excited to have you here today, Alice.
Thank you so much.
It's my absolute pleasure. So we're going to kick off with our little snack and drink, because I think no good conversation should be started without a snack and a drink. And I, love what you've chosen. So we got, not an oat flat white.
Very much regular.
A regular flat white.
Dairy.
Is a no.
Sorry, I tried the oats, but it didn't work.
And we got some pastries here. So we got a little maple pastry and a cinnamon one, which unfortunately Alice did ask me for cardamom and I couldn't get it.
We can't get the staff these days.
Fire her. Okay. Which one are we going for? You want the maple?
I'm going to do maple only because I've already had a cinnamon roll this morning.
I love it. It's pastry, your pastries are go-to.
I just love a pastry. And they're easy to eat on the go.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
As much as I'd love have a kale salad. Can't eat that very easily on the way to yoga class to yoga class.
Oh, this is my third coffee. This is going to be a good interview for a yogi, isn't it?
So Alice, I want to start off with rewinding the clock and thinking about when you first got into yoga.
Yeah.
When you first started practicing, what did you love about yoga?
God, that's interesting, because I think I first came to yoga from maybe quite a bad place in my life. But there was something about yoga that kind of gave me sort of a focus at first, because it's weird. My very first introduction to yoga was actually Bikram yoga. And that's insanely intense. But I was at drama school, and part of the package was that they paid for us to have a membership at this yoga studio around the corner. And it was a hot yoga studio, really like old school Bikram yoga studio.
Okay.
And so for me, it was like, great, like I'll go to it like literally every day. And the thing with like hot yoga, it can be very addictive. And it was a 90-minute practice. I think I dove into an absolute deep end of how hardcore that physical practice is. And because I came from very much a dance, physical, sports before that background, I saw it as, wow, this is a real challenge. This is making me sweat like crazy. It's making me work really hard. And so I fell into a real pattern of must be the best at this. So for a while, like that's where it was at. And then I think the actual practice dropped with me, because sustaining that physical practice at that level wasn't really doable. So in a way, it was that wake up call, like, why am I getting injured? Or why am I getting worse at this? Why is this making me not feel as good? And I had to just step back from that for a bit, explore a few different styles, explore a few different ways of doing it. And then I went, oh, it's really not what I thought it was about. And I was only like 21. So I was quite young finding it, I think, anyway. Some people find it much earlier than that. But I then decided to train not long after it, I realized that actually vinyasa flow was then a thing. And then there was different styles that suited me more and actually just suited my temperament actually a little bit better, and was able to be a bit more sustainable for the rest of my life. And I realized I did want to do this in some way, shape or form, have the practice, whether I teach it or not, in my life forever and ever.
And when you were still at drama school at this time, you did your 200-hour course.
So I did the 200 just after I graduated.
Okay. And the thinking was, I just want to learn more. I would like to be a teacher.
Yeah. Again, I was about 23. I've been acting for a long time. It was like, it's been my dream since I was like 8. And it was my whole world. It really was. And I think by the time I got to 23, I was really tired of the industry already. I'd been already broken before it really began. And it started to realize that the dream of being an actor is just very, it's so tough because it is really out of your hands in a way. I didn't want to be stuck in a place that made me feel not enough all the time. And I could feel my mental health. I could feel like my sanity starting to leave my body around that time when I graduated, and I was starting to realize that I needed a break. And I also really wanted something else to give me meaning, something else in my life that wasn't just tables forever, or because I did loads of jobs during drama school just to pay my way through. And I was like, I'm not sure I want to do this like this for years and years or forever. And I'm a very physical person. Like I said before, I grew up just moving my body in whatever way I could. And yoga just presented itself as this thing like, here you go, you can move for a living. You can maybe help people find their practice. And it was as basic as that, was the fact that I just wanted to continue what I knew best from my body. And I had time off after I graduated. I didn't have any responsibilities. I had nowhere I needed to be, nothing I needed to do. I wasn't employed by anyone yet. And I had a little bit of money from when my grandmother passed. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go and do this 200-hour training. I don't know what that was, but it's over in Ecuador. How cool is that? I can travel. And it was great. I really loved it. But yeah, that's how I came into the 200-hour. I was young, I was naive, but it was coming from a place that I needed to explore it. Yeah.
And do you think of everything you just said about the mindset that you were in at the time of the drama school stuff, of the pressure, the mental health,
so bad.
Gosh, I'm really not actually doing well. Was there an element, maybe you didn't realize it, how much it was helping that side of things as well? Your mind, your mental health, were you finding that in your yoga practice? Actually, you were finding some space and some ways of dealing with it?
Yeah, I wanted to scratch the itch. I was like, there's something about this that I'm really interested about, and I don't know what it is. I know so little about this. So I was more just curious and exploring, and maybe it would open up a new avenue for me. I feel like I've got a lot of stuff I need to process, and I have a feeling that yoga might be one of those things that helps me process it. And yeah, it has been. I was so lost at that time, but I had a little bit of an inkling that I needed to do this. And it was quite brave, I think, at the time to say, you know what, I'm going to not do this acting thing for a while. Or I did do it alongside it for a little bit. And then I fully did the breakup with it for a while. But I've always just been someone that loves work, but work that feels meaningful, that is creative, that is spiritual. Well, obviously yoga is, but I also found I had such a spiritual practice with acting. I had such a spiritual connection to, like, I love interior design, like loads of different things that I feel like very in touch with. It's actually quite a heartfelt connection to it.
Even just the intuitive move of saying, I'm going to do this because it feels right.
Yeah.
How many times do we have those messages or little signals from our body thinking, this feels right.
Yeah.
But actually doing the step of committing and saying, I'm going to go and do that is a whole other thing.
Oh, and now I can look back and go, wow, I'm so happy that my little naive, innocent body did that, because it's so much harder now being married and having a baby to just drop everything and do that. So if you are ever in a position that you feel like you can drop and go, do it. Go and do it. Yeah. So I'm really grateful for that young person to do that.
For sure. And when you did go to Ecuador, you went to go do your 200-hour. What did you learn, or what has stuck with you? What was the experience like?
Oh, it was just so empowering. It really was. It felt like, for one of the first times in my life, like I felt like I just got it. I just understood obviously I don't never profess to be like an expert in any of these things, but I just felt like I belonged there. Whereas at school and in lots of lessons, I was just trying so hard to make things click. And I was just so bored by so many different things. If it wasn't acting, if it wasn't dance, I was just like, I really wish I found this interesting. And I think if I was to go back and have a different teacher or whatever else, or have look at these things through slightly more aged eyes, then perhaps I would. There's lots of things I find more interesting now in my 30s than I did when I was 18. But it was one of those first things that I found so interesting. And I was like, it's just, my brain is like loving this. It's loving being challenged in this way. Give me more. And so I just had this new energy, this new like thirst for it all. And trust me, it has not been plain sailing, and we will definitely get into it all. But that was what stuck with me, was how alive I felt in those moments, because I'd felt quite dead inside after drama school. As much as also drama school is amazing, and I have some of my best friends for life from there, yoga, it was like, wow, I actually feel like I'm healing my relationship to myself by doing a lot of this. And yeah, that really is such a huge, I mean,
it's a huge thing.
That's it, really, for me.
Just to dive more into that, like healing my relationship with myself. And that is a beautiful sentence, by the way. But
yeah,
for somebody who might be listening to this, who might be new to the practice of yoga and gone to a few classes, but might be thinking, gosh, how on earth does yoga do that?
At the time of when I was doing it, I had so much shame over the way I looked, and that, I mean, you're only a product of what you have heard and listened to and been a part of previously. So all I'd ever heard for the last few years was like, you're not this enough, and you're not really that enough, and we didn't go for you because of this, and it's all about you. And there's like quite a shame element around it. And I just thought there was something so wrong with me. And when you realize that, like, you don't have to look any certain way to practice this, you don't have to come from a certain background to do any of this, I just felt really accepted from, and that's even coming from someone that is just very able-bodied and very generic looking, that I didn't feel like there was a place for me in like the acting world. Weirdly, like I just felt so rejected in that world. And it just fed into the rest of my life feeling a little bit like negative and horrible on myself. And I would restrict my eating, and I would restrict joy, because I felt like I didn't deserve it. Until I landed that job at the National Theatre, I just couldn't really deserve to feel anything other than, I don't know, this pressure. And yeah, yoga was making me realize that that's not what it's about.
Amazing.
And I know that will always seem really vague when someone talks about their journey to yoga and what yoga really is, but it really was about the journey to oneself, and it is to really who you are and what makes you feel joy and what keeps this flow, this rhythm inside of you going. And there have been plenty of times within the last 10 years that flow has stopped, or I felt very stuck again, because they're patterns of behavior that I'm really used to going, and we're all used to going into. Yeah, you learn these tools, you learn how to be a bit more self-aware. You learn when it's that, and I can come out of that. Easier said than done when you're in the depths of that, all of that, right? Yeah, so I am grateful for the practice, the experiences that I've had, to pull myself away from that sliding, it's like slippery slope.
Yeah, and if you find yourself in that space, which we all do, at times coming back to, oh my gosh, everything's overwhelming, or whatever it is, if you had a little toolkit, what are your practices that you come back to, that you know, okay, in this moment, this is really going to help me?
Yeah.
Is it more of a physical thing?
It's quite physical. I'm quite a physical person, so I might need to just stop. If I need to have a cry, talk, breathe, and move my body. And it doesn't have to be, there's no right or wrong way to move your body, in my opinion, at all. Just whatever makes you feel good. And yeah, that sounds so basic, but it's really true. You have to just stop, pause, let it out, breathe, and move your body.
Yeah, we are quite basic. We really overcomplicate things, in my opinion.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So the last year or so has been a big year for you.
I mean, 2 years, my baby is
last
2.
couple of years. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
Time flies. How did you find your yoga practice when you were during pregnancy?
Oh, the best. It was
Really?
so good. I loved it. I loved it. Listen, I was super lucky in my pregnancy that I didn't feel sick. And I had a really good pregnancy. Okay. That was luck and genetics, I think, on my side. My mum had the same. But I was really nervous actually before getting pregnant. I was like, because you don't know what you're going to get. And I was teaching yoga full time all the time. And I was like, gosh, if I am sick, it's going to be really hard to teach. And I got very lucky that I never missed a single class in the 9 months that I was pregnant and taught. I taught up until 38 weeks and she was born at 39.
Wow.
And it just got me through it. It really did. I found that anytime I did feel like a bit dodge, I was probably going to teach that day. And as soon as I dropped into that place and into my breath and moved my body, didn't have to be a huge amount, I felt so much better. And it was like the thought of feeling a bit rough had gone. Things had moved and shifted around my body. The use of the breath, just feeding it, was so, so helpful. And yeah, my attention was on everyone else, but as a result, came back to me. And I think that's what's so nice about being a teacher is you are giving and hopefully you are receiving at the same time. I really like teaching group classes that have this wonderful energy about it. And it just gives you, as a teacher, that real nice momentum. So I was super lucky, I was able to continue that. But I could feel the physical benefits massively. She loved it. I know she did.
I was going to say, I can't help but just think how incredible for little Olive.
She loved it. She definitely loved it.
Yeah.
It was so nice because when you're pregnant and when you're moving, when you're exercising, and I did a lot of exercise alongside of my teaching and yoga, the baby's often quite still when you're physically moving, and they like the rock. And you see, that's how you send a baby to sleep in the early days anyway. And it's often during Shavasana, when we're more still, that I would feel her like wiggling around and I would just want to cry every single time. It was so nice. So it was a really lovely way of me connecting to her. And I knew it was healthy. I knew it was good for both of us, which was just such a
just energetically for you to be feeling that. And she's inside of you. Of course, that's going to transfer.
I loved it. It's amazing to see my practice evolve and change and adapt during that 9 months too. I just felt so empowered. I felt great. Yeah, so I loved it.
Love it. And since obviously now she's 2, how has your personal yoga practice shifted having a 2-year-old?
Oh, it's like non-existent. Listen, I've never been the best at having a consistent yoga practice when I'm not teaching, because I used to teach so much that sometimes the last thing I wanted to do was go back onto the mat and into a yoga studio.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, it's really hard. There's only so many hours you do have in the day, and you need to eat, you need to do real basic things. So it has gone out the window in that I only teach 2 classes now a week regularly, and then I cover a couple of extras. I get a lot out of just leaving the house empty-handed, no buggy, no nothing. I get a lot out of just like my time. And being able to then go and teach a class, which I do often demo a lot of my classes. So I get this physical benefit of it too. And so that for me is just, again, I get so much from it. There is just, time is so different now. Time is so different when you have a child. There's not as much of it. And whatever you do have needs to be spread out along all the different things that you have to do to run a house, to pay the bills, and to just nurture yourself and your baby. But I feel my practice there. I don't feel like I've completely detached from it at all. I always feel better after I teach a good class. And Olive's picked it up. She definitely has. As she sees, whenever I put my yoga clothes on, she says, "Mummy, yoga." I'm like, oh, yeah, exactly. She knows some postures. I think honestly, just from watching me sometimes get down when I know I need to get into that little bit there. And it's in the moments where the tantrums kick in for her and with me that the real practice comes in.
Yeah, that's what I want to even dive more into, because often we box our yoga practice into, I'm going to go and book this dynamic vinyasa class.
Yeah, no, I don't do that.
Go and do 60 minutes on the mat. But that is really a tiny part of a yoga practice. And that's literally what I wanted to create this podcast for, is to help people understand how a yoga practice and the presence and awareness and connection to yourself, your emotions, seeds through your whole life.
Yeah.
And that is really where the true benefit comes. So in those moments, even where you're just you and Olive, or where you're just doing me time and you said going out without anything, that is as much of a yoga practice as is that 60-minute dynamic vinyasa.
Oh, massively. Listen, because also there comes a point where you can't do any more asana. Like that's not going to make you feel better in certain moments in time. And you can't just drop down and get into a down dog. You can't do that all the time. And I think I put quite a lot of pressure on that physical side of the practice to fix me. And then when it wasn't always doing it, it's very confronting. And you go, no, because that's not the practice. You can get into every single posture and not really be practicing yoga. And so the true real strength of it is the mental side of it. And it's confronted me more in the last few years than it ever has, for sure. And how I want it to actually really rub off on her is I don't pressure her to like practice down dog or whatever. That's just fun. That's just funny. Watching a little baby be like, look, I can do this. And we're just having a real laugh about it. And I am such a lover of asana. I really am. I always will be. And I think it's a lovely gateway. It's a stepping stone into the deeper stuff. And I think some love has been lost with asana. I think there's been a lot of shaming around asana personally. And I think there's a reason why it is there.
Yeah, we all have a body.
Yeah, we've all got a body, and it's just such a privilege to be able to move it. But eventually, and I like to say it in my classes, one day you might not get in a headstand anymore. One day you might lose the use of it's a part of your body, unfortunately. And that is the reality of it. Your asana is going to come and go. And I think our relationship with our bodies has to be beyond like what it can physically do. So whenever I'm like then in those moments where I am literally like on my knees a little bit with struggling, and there's been so many times that I have, and I'm now very aware of when I'm struggling, when it's around her, and how I process that struggle around her and the words that come out of my mouth. Or because when stress happens, of course it is, it's human. It's a human experience to experience anxiety. And this little person in my life, we rub off each other constantly. So if I'm having a bad day, likelihood is she's going to have a bad day. She's having a bad day, I'm going to have a bad day. So we can get into this kind of an annoying little cycle of badness. But when shit hits the fan and you let it go, you let everything come out of you, you let yourself cry and weep and wail and get a bit angry, it's fine. But it's then what we do with that aftermath, that anger and frustration. And if you've ever been around a toddler and a baby, they have a lot of frustration and anger because they're experiencing it for the first time. They want to go from here to here and they can't do it. It's like really basic level stuff. And you're just trying to fix everything. And sometimes you can't fix it. You just got to let it be. We could go into the Motherhood podcast soon about that, all of that. But yes, it's more that I do have to just surrender to the moment. So when she's having a very obvious physical, vocal tantrum, what I've now learned is that you have to let that emotion ride out. If you suppress it, it's only going to come back and bite you. It's not done yet. So we need to give space to our emotions, how we feel, how we really feel. And when I've done that with her and she's doing it and I'm watching her, she has taken herself off into a little quiet corner very often when she's absolutely exhausted from what's just happened. And she's just sat down and I'm sat down and we're breathing and we just quiet for a minute. And then she often just stands right back up, turns around and is, hi, Mum. Hi, Mummy. I'm not quite healed by that point. I'm not quite done. I'm like, my nervous system is like, but I think that's her learning how to regulate her nervous system because I've not tried to fix anything. I've given her the safe space to do this emotional outpouring of whatever it is. She feels safe. I'm right there. She turns around and she's back with me. And I'm learning a lot from her, from watching basically a tiny little monkey.
It's so intuitive. Everything they do is intuitive.
Doing it. And I'm like, this is what we're having to relearn how to do as adults. in a society that has told us about suppressing it. And I come from a very keep calm, carry on family. I do, like, I've never had therapy, and I'm about to start, which I'm really excited about. In a way, yoga's been my therapy. But
absolutely.
but there's only so much of that. Again, there's only so much of the physical practice that can help you. But now I've reached that point that I need to talk it through a bit more. But watching her try and regulate herself is so inspiring. Yeah.
I bet.
And it just reminds me to do the same to myself.
It reminds me of the I think it's one of the niyamas. It's like non-violence. Because non-violence, when I first was reading and learning about this, my 200 hour, I was like, I'm not really a violent person. You know, I don't lash out. And then when you dive into it, it's know that our violence is how we talk to ourselves, how we are with ourselves, how we sit with ourselves. And when you sometimes tune into the way that you talk to yourself in your head and think, I would never speak like that to a friend or a family member. And it's sometimes just it's that awareness again of thinking, hang on a second, why am I attacking myself in my head or putting that pressure on me or thinking it's my fault? Or and that's the layers of yoga where that is a yoga practice. It's just so different. That is the yoga practice.
I think that ahimsa has really presented itself to me over the last couple of years. And it's the word non-violence, the first thing you think about is, physical. And a lot of what the Western world sees as yoga is physical. But it's the diving deeper, and it's the explorative nature of actually the practice, which is so interesting and so empowering, and it's so much more than just a word. We're not physically violent people here. But if I was being truthfully honest, the way I would speak about myself before having a baby in particular was not kind.
Was violent.
It was violent to myself. Again, like I said, I would punish myself. I wouldn't even, anything I would eat, I would think I must now not eat until the next day. And that's a really horrible, violent thing to do to yourself. And it is a kind of self-prescribed thing that you're doing without.
It's a learned thing as well. We all have that.
Totally. And so when I realized that is so learned, and I had a daughter, my biggest thing, and she is really helping me with this, is to look at your internal voice. Now, practice what you really want, what you're preaching. And it is ahimsa, and it is the contentment and all these kind of things. It's the first real time in my life that I'm super aware and putting into action what I genuinely want to see the change within us. I do not use the word fat around her or look or criticize myself around her, because I cannot let her inherit that. I cannot. It's the amount of time I lost saying all those horrible things about myself, or thinking that I needed to be different to actually what I was. And it's such a shame, because I can look at a picture of myself now at 22 and go, you were so gorgeous. And I remember that day, and you felt so hideous. And if only it's the eyes, it's what we see, what we're conditioned to think of ourselves. And I remember even being at primary school, and there was this weird obsession of being like, she thinks she's the best, or she thinks she's pretty. I was like, and now I'm like, I would hope that every little girl thinks she's pretty and thinks she is awesome. And it was such a negative thing back in the 90s, because we were all trying to be the smallest versions of ourselves, or think that was what success deemed, or and it creeps in constantly, like this physical show of success. And in the yoga world, Instagram yoga, and particularly in its heyday around when I became a yoga teacher in 2013, 2014, it was rife. If you could do a handstand, you would get all of the jobs. If you put your handstand on Instagram, you would get thousands of followers overnight. And it was such a weird thing, because actually that was giving you success. It was giving you jobs. And it's a very strange thing when you're trying to live quite holistically and spiritually and truthfully, to then be thrown into a capitalist society when it was all still about looks. It's a really confronting, weird, hypocritical place to be. And it's only in the last few years, I think, we've calmed down, and we've still got a lot more calming down to do. But I felt like I was right back to the acting industry. I was like, hang on a minute. I've just come from one toxic industry into another.
But what does that say about our society? It's how it's built.
Exactly. Totally. And even the wellness world, and the wellness world has got a lot of thinking to do. And it's responsible for a lot of heinous crimes, in my opinion. But underneath it all is this beautiful, pure practice of living truthfully and to be a kind person to yourself first, which is really the main form of activism to me, is to sort yourself out and then you can sort other people out. And like the first rule of motherhood is put your oxygen mask on first and then you can sort everyone else out. And we forget it all the time. It's very natural for us to slip back into these old habits, but catch yourself. And that's what's made me, I think, a lot wiser in this moment in time. Doesn't mean I'm immune to postnatal depression, because I have had that. I've been there and I've felt it, and it's been really hard. So you can do all of the right things and you can practice all of this stuff, but life comes in and it comes at you pretty fast, particularly with such life-altering things like having a child or moving, getting new jobs and all of those things, going through illnesses. And having a baby isn't the only life-altering thing that happens in your life. It's a huge one.
Yeah.
But having her and having a daughter, and she is a mirror to me, and I am so ready to protect that little brain so much. So that's what's come out massively from my yoga practice, and really understanding that, non-violence is not just the physical. We can go into that a lot more as well. But yes, how we speak about ourselves and then how it rubs off on other people. And if you do have a good internal voice, you have a much nicer external voice, and you stop seeing the bad things in people. You stop looking for the bad things in people. I think that's a better way of putting it. When you're in a very toxic mindset, that is what you look for first. And then the other big sort of commandment that I've been very attached to recently is contentment. And in my darkest moments recently of being in this postnatal hurricane, which is still very much happens during the toddler years and the early years and probably beyond. But the thing that I have had to really remind myself of is that I am content. And that is such what an achievement, to feel content, to feel like I don't want for anything else. I don't want for material things like as much as I used to before I had the stuff that really gives me so much meaning. I don't need a different house roof over my head. I don't need any more babies at the moment. And I don't need anything. A little bit more money from the yoga industry, by the way. Put up your prices, put up your fees, would be nice. But in my moments where I've not felt happy, I've had to remind myself that happiness is a fleeting emotion. It comes and it goes, and it's not a constant state of being. But contentment is one of that. You can feel content and feel unhappy in the current moment, and that's fine. They can coexist together. When no one is happy literally 24/7 all the time. And I think my yoga practice has reminded me and has brought me further to being a human being. The complexities that we go through in life, that we feel, who we become, we're so different with each season of our life, with every era that we go through. But this practice, it evolves and it changes. And I love teaching asana. Okay, I love teaching asana. I love creating flows that people feel good doing and that they can find their own flair with. And I'm not strict, but that is the way that that's who I am in this yoga world. Is I'm a physical asana yoga teacher. And if you come to my class and feel something beyond the physical, then awesome. Great. I'm really glad.
On that, where are your 2 classes that you teach at the moment?
So Monday evenings at Trip Space in Haggerston at 6:45, and then Friday mornings at Yoga Home in Stoke Newington.
My favourite.
Yeah, that's where you came, at 9:45 a.m. So I'm there. And then I'm also teaching retreats. Yeah, which is great. I love teaching retreats. But it's quite hard being a teacher and a mum at the same time. I won't lie.
And if people who are listening to this podcast want to find you, want to follow along on the journey, where's the best place to find your news?
So Instagram obviously is always pretty good for that. So it's Alice Trow Yoga. But I'm also dipping my toe in interior design stuff, building my little house and my family. So it's all on there because why not just put your whole,
Too.
Otherwise, if you want to ever practice and you live in a different country or whatever else, I've got YouTube videos. All of those videos were recorded during COVID times, but there's a lot of them. And
I've done many of them.
Yeah,
They're fab.
there's a whole range. So that's on YouTube with Alice Trow Yoga as well. Yeah.
Amazing. So last couple of minutes, we went into just a very short section called Final Flow, and I'm just going to ask you a few questions and just like off the bat, one word answer. What do you
This
feel?
is cool.
What's your favorite yoga pose at the moment?
My God, that's made me now think. Do you know, I always like Trikonasana, actually.
We've had that a lot. What's one that you love to hate?
Handstands.
Yeah. Same.
I'm over it. I'm over it. Pincher, give me any day of the week. I'm over it.
Dream retreat location?
Somewhere in Australia. But then I'd literally just have the Aussies, which I'm happy to have any day of the week. But yeah, somewhere like really obscure, French Polynesia.
I'm in. Sign me up.
It'll be 20 grand. Actually, or Switzerland, the Alps, somewhere funny and snowy.
That sounds also delightful.
Sorry, now you
We'll just keep going on like all the retreats. My final one, Alice, for you today. If you were an animal, what would you be?
A dolphin.
I can see that.
Because I could totally get over my fear of the sea.
Oh, okay. We can do that. Alice, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I hope I haven't come across as a bad yogi.
Never. Thank you so much, everyone who has listened. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you give it a little like, comment, and maybe share it with someone who you think might find it useful. I'm going to pop all of Alice's details in the show notes so you can find her, follow with her, practice with her, and I hope to see you again next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed today's episode with Alice, I would love to hear which part of the conversation resonated most with you. Drop a comment below and let us know. Also, it helps me more than you realise to hit that little subscribe button. Or if you're feeling extra supportive, to share this week's episode with a friend or family member you think might like it too. You can find us on Instagram at Christy Knight Yoga and at offthemat_podcast. See you next week.